In this Roll for Crit review, we're returning to a classic, so to speak, with Ticket to Ride San Francisco. This is part of the City series, in which they're designed to be a little bit smaller and quicker to play versus the original classic. Now, each one has their own unique mechanics, make them stand out from each other, and as you can tell from the name, based on real cities. Now, this one is San Francisco, so I hope you're ready to hop on the trolley with me as we head around the town in order to gather some unique souvenirs. Here is our lovely map of San Francisco, and in terms of gameplay, if you've played Ticket to Ride before, you know 90% of this game. For those who are new, the point of Ticket to Ride is to get the most victory points. To do so, you're going to be placing train cars, in this case trolley cars, along different routes, trying to connect locations in order to gather up those points you need. In order to place your pieces, you need to discard the same number of cards and color of the route you want to build. So let's say I want to build this route here. I would need to discard 2 green cards in order to be able to place those pieces on that route. This does a few things. 1, you get points right away for the route, depending on the size of the route you built. 2, it connects those locations and possibly more if, for let's say, you were able to build up to that route and connect. This is important for your third option, and that's tickets. You'll start the game with some of these, but these pretty much are hidden goals of locations you're trying to connect to. It doesn't need to be a direct route. As long as you can draw a connecting line between the 2 locations, you will get the points. However, be careful. If you're unable to connect the 2 destinations by the end of the game, you will lose those points instead. Now that's the basic gist of Ticket to Ride. What's a little bit different here are 2 things I want to mention. First off, and I think this is another Ticket to Rides, there are some locations showing a ship. That means you have to use a wild, which is the ferry, which makes sense for San Francisco. Only one of the cards have to be wild, the rest just have to match in color. So here you can discard 4 greens and a boat. The other thing you may notice are these tokens on the board. At the start of the game, you will place tokens in these red spots, pretty much the corners of the map, with the last 2 piles being placed by another player, usually the person who's going to be last to go. If at any time you build a route that connects to one of the locations with these souvenirs and you don't have it yet, you will take one. At the end of the game, they will be worth a number of points depending on the number of unique souvenirs you have. Do keep in mind, if you build and some reason there are 2 souvenirs at both ends, you only get one of them. You can't get both. The rest is basic Ticket to Ride. You will keep playing until you are able to connect those locations, and then one player, when they have 2 or less cards, will trigger endgame. Everyone gets an extra turn, then you'll see which of those tickets you're able to do, gain those points, or if you weren't able to complete them, lose the points. You'll then gain some extra points depending on the set of souvenirs you've collected, and whoever has the most is the winner. Like I said, this is Ticket to Ride, and it is quicker than the original one, assuming you don't have players like me who spend too much time thinking at the table. And because of that, I do enjoy it. I like the idea behind the cities of being these lighter, quicker ones, and I don't feel they take too much away in terms of the core mechanics of Ticket to Ride. I missed the longest road, but I still had fun playing this. Ticket to Ride is still one of those games that I still enjoy a lot to this day. Now, in terms of the uniqueness compared to the other ones, I'm not the biggest fan of the souvenirs. I felt that because most of them were on the edge, so like in this example, what tended to happen is once players place the pieces, the ones that are actually somewhat placed by other players tend to be the ones everyone targeted really quickly, because once they're gone, odds are the route you made to pick up those souvenirs might be along your way. Because of that, I felt like that once those few first tokens were picked up, you maybe stopped along the way if you happen to already be going there, or at the very end of the game, if you had some trains, maybe you pick one up. It wasn't that kind of thing where throughout the game I was debating on taking this route instead of this route in order to get those extra tokens. They were more of a bonus goodie along the way. That said, I was thinking that there could be an alternate rule in which maybe the 3 corners, because you want to keep some on the edges, but the rest were maybe drawn from here, and a player could decide that, oh, one's in the Japanese garden and the other one is in Fort Mason, putting that ticket on the bottom, pretty much using the ticket deck as a way to randomly spread out the tokens, making it a bit more interesting to fight over them. Do you go for the token first or really focus on your locations? Then again, this is, like I said, part of the city line, which is meant to be a little faster and quicker, and not the kind of game where there's a lot more setup involved. I'm probably adding too much complication to it, but I think that could be a fun alternate rule to maybe spice up the token collection and make it a bit more interesting and challenging on trying to get all these pieces. Outside of that, I enjoy the game. It's Ticket to Ride. The pictures are really cute. It's same colors, but very funny symbols matching things how you get around San Francisco. The map is fun, and I'm sure for someone who actually lives there, or at least is much more well-versed, I have not been there since I was young, will probably really love being able to connect to these locations. And I think that's honestly the biggest attraction to these city games. It's not even like the mechanics. The lighter Ticket to Ride is definitely a plus, but I feel it's going to be rewarding to be like, I am someone who's deeply connected to San Francisco, so this means a lot to me, or the New York one or the London one. So I feel that's going to be where a bunch of the big appeal will come from, and I think that's perfectly fine. And it's got Ticket to Ride in there, which is a fun, great game, so you're still going to have a blast, even if, like me, you weren't nearly as impressed with the souvenir tokens. Crits and misses for Ticket to Ride San Francisco. Crits. The core gameplay of Ticket to Ride is intact, but the playtime is significantly reduced. Obviously, this was the main goal of the City Line series, and I think it was able to nail that. This is still important as it's still fun to play if you like Ticket to Ride, but it's still lighter and quicker for people who are newer to the series. Misses. The first few turns are affected by the tokens as they're placed more along middle routes, but afterwards, people tended to maybe collect them by happenstance rather than changing their strategy in order to get more of the tokens. I find that a house rule randomizing more of the spawn locations of these tokens could make the tokens more important to your strategy throughout the entire game rather than just the very beginning and end. So first off, not a lot of crits and misses because most of the crits are everything you'd say about Ticket to Ride. It is a fun game. It is a great one to introduce people to, and I highly recommend most of the entire series. This is a great place to start because it's a little bit quicker, so people might be, if they're not used to sitting as long for a board game, would enjoy. And of course, the classic one is classic for a reason, so pick up whichever one you think fits you the best. Now, obviously, if they're a fan of San Francisco or any of the cities, these probably will be a better pick because it'll connect more with them. Now, in terms of the token mechanic, yes, I wasn't a big fan of it. It wasn't bad per se. I just was like, that was the best way to describe it. I also don't think it was like most of the other ones I can't really say like, oh my God, London did the best one or something like that. They're all, because these are all designed to be smaller and quicker, they're very simple and maybe just not the kind of thing that I really want as much. That said, I appreciate them trying to at least make each city have their own thing so they don't just feel like a reskin or where you could just sell the map like they do for almost all the other Ticket to Ride maps. You can let me know what your thoughts on this are. Do you think that this mechanically stands out from the rest for the City Line? Is this something that's more for people who enjoy San Francisco? Is that why you'd pick this up? I'd love to hear your thoughts about this and all the other city games or original Ticket to Ride. You can let me know in those comments down below. And if you think someone would be interested in this video, please share it with them. Thank you so much. And of course, if you do the like, subscribe, bell, all the stuff that YouTube algorithm wants, I greatly appreciate it. But for now, I'm Will Keeler, and this has been Roll for Crit.